Namo Guru Yambe Namo Yambe Daya Namo Yandaramaya Namo Yasangaya Namo Guru Yambe Namo Yambe Daya Namo Yandaramaya Namo Yasangaya Kande Lai Guen Yin Do Garai Rai Guai Sho Sa Bo Yin De Cho Zen Ze Che Yin Ya Bo Yin Yin Lo San Cha Se Da Che Ba Ne De She So So De Ye Na Ga Se De Be De Che La Ma Ye Be Zong Ga Chen Tai Lo De Be Se Na Chen Zhong Du De Ba Ye Ji Ge Ya Shu So So Xie Jie Chun Gun Jia Wei Lu Zhen Du Ge San Na Wei Jian Yu Li Xie Tan Bi Bi Ye Lai Men Zi Bi Gu Toyan De Chen Be Toyan De La Chan Se Ye Wo Che Ye Na Zo Me Do Da Che Xin Du Be Na Zi Che Cha So我上一直是这样做的，是那些就就来去把别看见他们对那啥把也。六月也面给去切巴郎东巴所以面的朝你那也巴他别说说下。你们的我的妈的罗来着，却也把别带着的也去，我不去也。来见见吧啦，大家上吧，太别也让，且在来 Ka Tenzin Dorjee Phuntsok Gyeltsen Let me remind every one of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it bodhicitta motivation, seeking Buddhahood for the sake of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived bodhicitta motivation, we should participate in this discourse. So where we left off in this commentary on the wisdom chapter 9 of Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva's Bodhisattva Char Avatar, or a guide to Bodhisattva's way of life. So we talked about the 5 obstacles, or we call faults, nyeba, that we need to tackle or get rid of in order to cultivate shamatha, or mental tranquility, or calm abiding. And we also need to use 8 antidotes we call Dorjee to be able to counteract the 5 faults or the 5 obstacles.
존주사가 땡에서 금도 제가 말아봐.
No.
땡에서 그거 대바 될때 존주 그서 대바곰 신상시 존주시 존주시의 신상시에서 고소시 유저리가 어디서 거다. 어디서 내다서 대바시 내바 존주시 근데 신상다 저기 땡에 내다서 저도 대바 존주 신상시들어 네 대바 그 텔레바 존주 신상 어디 유저리 거기 존주성에 애니 땡에서 애니 텔 신상계의 대화계고 어디서 땡에서 금주사 어디 얘가도 어떻게 상고를 어디서
So Geshe went back a little bit. Those of you who have this English translation of the commentary, at the bottom of page 203, we have a citation from a text called Vitan Namche in Tibetan, literally differentiating or distinguishing the middle and the extremes. And that basically highlights the antidotes, 8 of them, that we use to be able to counteract the 5 obstacles of the false. As Geshe said, that for us to be able to cultivate calm abiding or shamatha, to actually have it, so we have to deal with the 5 obstacles that prevent us from developing it, called the 5 chun, means 5 faults. And so how can we deal with them is by practicing the 8 antidotes of Dorjee. And so here at the bottom of page 203, the citation reads, I quote, the basis and what is based in that, cause and effect, not forgetting the observation, noticing laxity and agitation, application to relinquishing those, and letting be when they are pacified, unquote. So Geshe was explaining these stanzas here. What does the basis mean? That's the translation of the Tibetan word called ne, or the source, right? And so the source here actually refers to deba, faith. The faith, as Geshe explained last time, is when we see the benefits or the qualities of cultivating, calm abiding, right? So then we aspire to cultivate it. So that kind of faith is the basis. And what is based on that, or what's rooted in that source, are a few other things, such as meba, aspiration, right? You aspire to achieve it. And then aspiration is not enough, because you need to diligence or effort, right? You have to pursue to achieve what you aspire for. And then when you consistently, pursue or diligently pursue your goal here, so to speak, then that leads to the pliancies of the body and mind. So pliancies, or the Xinjiang is defined, Xinjiang literally means thoroughly trained, right? Pliancies means that our body and mind become very serviceable and functioning, that we really don't feel tired or sluggish or yagadi or all of that. Because of the pliancies. But there are cause and effect relationship among these few things we just mentioned, right? Faith is the cause, and that can give rise to aspiration to the diligence or the tuned effort, and then that to the pliancies, right? There's a cause and effect relationship among those things. And so those are the antidotes to laziness, right? Lelo, right? And we know laziness are of different kind, but generically speaking, laziness. And then the next one is not forgetting the observation, which means really we don't lose the focus, right, on our object or whatever we want to call that. That's called actually forgetting the instruction in Tibetan. And then we have the Jingwa and Goba. Jingwa is the laxity, kind of dullness, and Goba is the excitement or agitation, right? It's just that. And so when those things do pop up in our meditation, then we cannot be indifferent, right? We have to apply antidotes to overcome laxity and agitation, excitement. But if they are not present in our meditation, at certain stage they are not, then don't overdo it. If you still try to apply antidotes to laxity and excitement, then that is then become a problem. Right now, it's called application problem here. So you have to stay put. Non-application is the antidote. Yes. And so Geshe basically read that citation and the 3 paragraphs on top of page 204, which antidote to laxity and agitation are the Tenzin. Mindfulness. Mindful has these characteristics. Mindfulness is defined in terms of something you are familiar with, right? It rises. And then what it does is doesn't forget that focus on the object, and then it doesn't let your mind distracted to any other things, right? These are the characteristics of mindfulness. And then introspection, usually I say Tenpa here called meta-awareness, right? That's the spy, like if the laxity and excitements are really popping up or not. So we need a spy system there. So if the meta-awareness is like, ding, ding, there is, you're losing your focus, then we have to use the mindfulness or, whatever the proper antidotes are for those obstacles. So what is it? The next one is December Shishin. Yeah, so that's it. After that, what Geshe will explain.
Oh, there, that comes up. There, then that. Gumro Kari Jagin, Kanshi Kansa, Tamo, Jamja Shiwin, Shashi Sim Kari Gumwin, Kanshi Gumza, Yondan, Tonga, whatever they test or Takashi, Tebashe. Call Yondan to Madon and the call Tony Yagmara. That Yondan told the court told the air, then the Basira. Dubai, that Dubai, some results on the individual Yashara.
No.
This is the suppose don't do you did easy. Tomo the thing is the pay up. It's an thing is the Goya, the back check, Gumgosap. Gumgasap, they go on to the end of Gumgo, when you Gumgara. When you go on, and you go to the show the show, no, you're not a someone. Don't get what you're doing is position.
So basically, Geshe is giving an example, connecting it with the faith, aspiration, diligence, and pliancies, right? I'm going to choose any topic that you are interested in. It could be the practice of going for refuge in the 3 jewels, or it could be cultivating bodhicitta or any other. Yeah? And so first thing is we have to reflect on the benefits or the qualities we call of whatever practice we would like to pursue it. When we see the advantage or the benefits, what do I get out of it? Speaking as American, right? What do I get out of this one? So then, aspiration starts to happen. You get interested, right? Oh, I would like to, have a meditative absorption or a calm abiding. Well, that's just aspiration, good for you, because just that alone is not going to accomplish anything. Right? So we have to walk the talk. So this is where the diligence or effort comes in. Yes, I would like that, but now what do I need to do? So pursuing that goal. So once we pursue it consistently, of course, it should yield result. The goal is to be able to have what we aspire for. And so the accomplishment, the result comes out of the diligence or the chundu, enthusiastic effort, as we would say here, right? So in the process of that, we said that for us to be able to really feel full of energy and don't getting like tired or sleepy head or anything, this is where the pliancies matters a lot. Pliancy of the body, physical pliancy, and sitting in a meditation for however long it is, and pliancy of the mind, that mind is clear and sharp on the focus. And so in all of those things are there, of course, the result has to come about, isn't it? There's a cause and effect relationship among those things.
Oh, dear, that is go carry the Chikwara, carry the payon again, that was Changshu some ship and Jamra Kiwana, payon share, I grad, Carson, Tonda, Dubatua, Tonda, payon she was. What they said, the thing is to go payon, what they near the never thanks the pension to Tibetan. Or tell I told you, tell the Shinshans, the Jews told you Shinshans, said the Jews Shinshans, Geshe. Then the Jing and the citizen, and Miwala Gumguya, that thing is the Gumguya, Miwa Jes and the Digmara. The Miwa Maki have said Zingo, or tell Miwa tell this word. Jing Yambo Silta, Chamber Miwa Futura Song to Washade, Chamber the Gare. Miwa Mizibi, Miwa Jerry Yamborawa.
No.
That could. Then Chingu said, no, Chings and us Missua, my Pang Mar, she was the order.
No.
That you not so yield the mobile diameter Doya, tell a Guevas order.
No, sir.
Or said that Chingu is a daddy. When I told her, gave that Chingu did do good or did it. That day, Chingu in the Dutch, Shings on the culture was not the same. Good young there was their tail, and this period of tail, Syria, Pontor Boost, some of the Guburis. She won't guess on her.
No.
That Guba guess on a young bear, coaches out doing the sim do yard, the saw some of them. In the year, change the your do is
No.
just Guba guess on that day. Some of them was the coaches down, you make the water cut in the Jones song. And Guba guess on the Karza. It was the she won't just know ya simpang to or the she won't just on simpang talk about Guba just know my direct some of those. But the dress is so young John. In the beginning, the John Tawai, come down to those go resort. Simple Miguel, what then? Yeah, dear. And go shout you, but you're talking to Marva.
No.
But the time Miguel many by young son, young with our loves us, how coaching. So she how coaching, loves that Tibet to swing to us. But there was a Miguel said, you remove about those bear. Children is the better, you remove shy and the pedo Marva.
No.
This one.
So what Geshe explained is related to that citation from the text called Distinguishing the Middle and Extremes, basically indicating different antidotes that we could use to counteract laxity, agitation, and others. So as Geshe said, we often talk about this. Whatever practice you want to do, first we should explore and reflect on benefits we call qualities of whatever the practice is, right? If you see the benefits, and then of course that attracts our mind into it, right? Now we aspire, to engage in that practice. So that's very important, reflecting on the advantages or the benefits or the qualities of Yamdo, refuge practice, Bodhicitta practice, emptiness practice, Deity Yoga practice, you just name it, right? All of that. And so once we have aspiration, right, now things are starting up, but then aspiration alone is not enough, as we said. So we have to follow through our aspiration. This is where Jundu, enthusiastic effort or diligence, comes into picture. So when we consistently engage in that practice, then that should yield the result. And in the context of developing calm abiding or shamatha, so we talk about the result we achieve in the process are the pliancies of body and mind, right? So once we have them, then of course we wouldn't face much of a difficulty in doing a long meditation that's needed for developing concentration and so forth. So we see cause and effect, Junde relation, causal relationship among the faith, aspiration, diligence, and pliancies, right? Those are there. And then another obstacle or fault is forgetting the instruction, or what called losing our object of meditation focus. And of course, then there's no meditation really. So we have to bring our mind back to the focus, and what helps us to do that is the chenpa, mindfulness, right? Mindfulness can tie our mind, so to speak, to the focus of the object. So mindfulness is an antidote to forgetfulness or forget the instruction. And then, as we know, that distraction is not only the obstacle we face, we also feel sluggish and dull, right? That laxity is there. The Tibetan word jingwa. When that happens, it's just like we really don't have much of a clarity of the object. It's just like that, you know. And so the mind is kind of fuzzy and foggy and like that, a zombie type. Actually, I didn't say that zombie, but you get the message. So, so we need to bring the clarity to the mind, and one of the really good ways is to again reorient our mind to the benefits of cultivating a shamatha or whatever the practice we are doing, because that inspires us, isn't it? When the really dullness sets in, the mind becomes very sluggish, like, then we need to boost up the spirit, isn't it? We need to elevate the mind, as we Tibetans say, like sim pangte, right? Don't let it sink in, just bring it up, right? Pangte means so inspiration, we have to do that. So reflecting on the benefits and thinking about the enlightened qualities, well, that would really inspire our mind, the benefits of any other practice, daily yoga, emptiness practice, and so forth. And so then if our mind is clear enough, and but still we don't know if the agitation is going on or not. Agitation could involve thinking too many thoughts, irrelevant to the focus, isn't it? All kinds of thoughts are churning out, like all this, wonderful ramas in the mind is part of that, agitation. And so for that, we need to bring it down, because our mind is getting so high, thinking of all kinds of thoughts. So to bring it sort of more, humble it, to bring it down, we have to think about the suffering nature of samsara in general, the suffering of particular situations, bad migrations and so forth. Then that will bring the mind down to a good level where the agitation subsides, right? So if all things are going well, as Geshe said, meditation, right, we really we use the introspection or meta-awareness, and it is basically telling us, right, you don't need to do anything. You have a clarity in your meditation, and you have no distraction there. Then don't do anything. Just continue the practice, isn't it? So the non-application, dumijeba, is the antidote, right? If we still try to do something, then we are going to disturb the mind, So we don't need to do, what's the American express? If you don't need to fix it, don't fix it. You're going to break it again, something like that. So that's what we are talking about. And so it all depends upon one's personal practice level, isn't it? So you check with your personal level practice, okay, this is what's happened with me. I need to deal with the laxity, I need to deal with agitation, I don't need to deal with any of those things, right? So depending upon one's own familiarity with the practice stages, we go with that,
What did that chamber, the chamber said the person, not driver service, me but the musicians. Not yet, so the how me what the Karsa, not Higman, the coach, Trini Chayomaro, Ali, chamber gave us again, you the Shango, was the God Jivas, not the cook, washers, I call it easy to have coach, how was it? Teacher Karsa. Karsa. Not driver, she was a lot of chamber, not driver, she was not driver, not those are jigshe. Driver, she big body musicians, so the near Tamoshi with your jet and the pedal marva, my jiba shed. And the tell here the Mujo is lazy, could cover to some door.
No.
Not driver shed. And the Majeva said, and the Karsa, did he tell Karsa, Majeva, tell him the Mujoas, Tara, Miko Kawate, and the hotel data she, or the drag, Chema some days, or the Chema said the race.
So in the third paragraph on page 204 from the top, It says mindfulness has three qualities or characteristics. It functions to observe what one has familiarized oneself with, right? That's what we call familiarity is very important. Mindfulness has also a sense of recall, isn't it? If you are not familiar with the object, there's nothing to recall, right? So that's kind of thing. Bring the mind back because you already knew that object, right? Something. So remembrance, and then not to forget. Right? Sometimes, yes, we are familiar with some things, but then we don't remember them, right? That's not useful. So we have, the mindfulness helps us to be able to remember or not forget the familiarized object. And the third thing is not to be drawn away from it. So that there could be many other things competing for our attention and mind, right? So the mindfulness helps us to set our mind on the focus so that it doesn't chase or get distracted by other competing objects. So those are the three qualities we call yuanden or characteristics of mindfulness. Shishin the semani keba karsumbe. Shishin the semani keba karsumbe. Shishin the body sober of the chair and it's somebody got to go.
Simbasa, she is at the that Tungan, sober so the Hishen.
No.
That legal there.
I let the passing part.
Somebody how goes on that. Tabi gets your own.
I let this
Cheba.
So we're still in the third paragraph from the top on page 204. And so meta-awareness, Tibetan word is Sheshin, or I usually call introspection, is to notice the presence or absence of laxity and agitation. So that's the job of a spy, right? That you are in meditation, and if you employ your spy system, which is meta-awareness, then it can see Well, there is a bit of a laxity coming up, right? Or there is a bit of agitation happening, or nothing is there. So that functioning, that part of the mind is called meta-awareness or sheshin. Then there is the semba, translated as intention. It's a mental factor, secondary mental attitude we call semjung. And so it says its job is really to do what the spy tells you to do. I ask it, what the sound, because both explanations sound same to my ears, right? What the spy is doing, but it says no, the spy can only give the information, right? The mind is off the object, mind's distracted. Then, the one that has to bring the mind back, right, and connects again, that's the semba, translated here as the intention here. No.
我对这个是全部是这些，挺新鲜些。新鲜的经过什么种个新鲜些吧？但是要经过什么子，可是说话这的新鲜些。但什么呢？生育了要新鲜，过些的生中人了，但呢，经过熊那这里不完。了，什么不都是为什么我是对，觉得什么啥子，生育吧有超性的、劣化性的之类是，对了，那这种，修过修上的过好修过修上的，修过过的老是好过的，没办法，对他们修过对了，对新鲜些，修过么子可能啥的我的，不个错着是单个着。终于没当给着他的新鲜是我的，他什么事都在了，那什么一个都最年不多些，一个没得看小些，可能的大多数是个得了什么事。
So Geshe is saying again, the meta-awareness or introspection is the spy that informs you that your mind is really sitting well on the focus, don't need to do anything, or that your mind is becoming a little dull and you're losing clarity, you need to inspire it, boost up the clarity, or that your mind is really distracted, it's like your mind is in hustle and bustle state, so you need to withdraw your mind from hustle and bustle, and right, that's what it is. But then that which really does it, connecting the mind to it, is the intention or the semba, right? That's the semba's shall we say, a job. Semba usually defined as a mental factor that moves your mind to its object. It connects, right, to the object there. No.
我对他的semba是知道，这什么语里边结巴性个之类的，他那个都semba是啊，这里可经过生活就当，对结巴性个的，对semba是或者都性个的了，经过生活么都是看下。经过修那年不工作，我这什么事个也是，可是我把现在什么原因了？那经过修呢，这不完了，是不？我把都是什么我的，经过修呢，他讲什么的我，经过嘛就呢是没关系，他都大一点的那个，那什么，我们就是个要嘛是吧？我的他。英说呢，我的这个英老师最大国家最老师想给这什么事，我的说。
So let's continue to say that semba or intention translated here is, if your mind is really involved in too many thoughts which are not relevant to your meditation, then the intention has to bring your mind back to the focus, right? Either your mind is sitting on your the focus of the object, then it doesn't need to do anything there. So the application of antidotes and non-application of antidotes is kind of connected to the functioning of semba. Semba can also be not just a very passive mind, it's also can do examination or things like that. Yeah.
这可是，帮助人去什么行呢？心情呢出来就改我当，可能什么难的对不对？那就英雄我们也了，晓得这晓得老多了，也许那搞我们的 생도와 셔 그밖에는 메타바 일을 샤웨 효와 셔 예소서 데리다 내 친구 군다 가르침 신소나 심야 군조 요대도야 아니 심야胖对呀 또 그랬어 아니 친구 신소나 어디서 그바 소소나 교회에서 배는 능행 그 코아지시랑 예명조 어디 능행 상도동 어디서 그랬어 저거 어디 저거 그랬어 그래서 니도가 그바시는 메다바 일을 샤와 효와쇼 예소스디 되게도 이슈나 가와고바쇼스 유주 군주 랍줄려 들어서 랍줄세야 저 예지 샤와라 코란지 랍줄세야 디서 어디는 근데 그래서 심 신소는 야 생도에 탑시스 그래서는 심마 방마도 탑시스 랍줄 들어 송샤스
So in the last paragraph on page 204, there is a citation from the Anthology of Training, which is the Siksha Samukcha, you should call a compendium of Bodhisattva trainings. That's how I translate it, by the great Bodhisattva Master Shantideva. And so Shantideva tells us here, I quote, "When disheartened, cultivate joy and raise your spirits. When agitated, think of impermanence and quail your mind," unquote, right? So as Geshe explained, that if our mind is losing clarity, it's too much sinking in, and just like mind is in a very unclear, foggy state of mind, then we really have to think something that inspires the mind, joyful things, right? We can think about the benefits of the practice, qualities of enlightenment, and so forth. In other words, really the mind is feeling too low, so you need to elevate the state of the mind so it feels fresh and clear. But if the mind is very agitated, kind of distracted with excitement like that, too many irrelevant thoughts are coming and poking nose into everybody's business. Geshe didn't say that, that's the mind's doing. Now we have to use what we call think about impermanence and suffering, so that mind can be brought down. It's feeling too high, right? You need to bring it down.
What is it? This is the point that Simba Dishibe, Simba, Pony the Signus and Troy, you guy, over the Guna, Sim not to Debe, Yinjung, to go over Yelashiva, I love you less. Ye shouldn't go my Sim to show. Go back to the Medava Yelashiva, show, yes, or say. 다 늦지 따지면 친구 빼셔 봐나 생저와다 나온도 구바서 메시 바라세 쪼알려네 좀 다들 친구들과 가야면 있으면 미바 야보 되게나 애는 거 초구도 야 그거 주고 심 친구 주고 이제 딱도 마셔 신 그런 랑자 샤고 그랬어 심 야보 되셔서 야 콜이야 제발서 주제도 양서 유료야 객시오로 그래서 야보 되도 때라 다 랑자 해야 뭐도지 근데 딱도 신이 제발시죠 말이죠.
And then it goes on to say that the application of equanimity is to be when laxity and agitation have subsided, relaxing the efforts to raise the spirits or withdraw within, etc. So anyway, I think Geshe's explanation is much clearer than this one coming to me. So the Tibetan word tangyom, we translate as equanimity or balanced state of mind, or sometimes even-mindedness. These are the translations of the word. But the first thing Geshe said is that when you are in meditation, cultivating shamatha, and let's say there is no laxity or agitation popping up in your meditation, it's really going well. And so the equanimity, which is non-application here, tangyom means you don't need to invoke the spice system, leave the meta-awareness alone. don't need to invoke the mindfulness because, right, everything's going well. And so when things are going well, so don't overdo it, because then that becomes a distraction, isn't it? Yeah. So the kind of equanimity in this context is the non-application of antidotes, because there's no need to apply antidotes to laxity and agitation. So stay put, you know. So in other words, as Krishna said, let's say you are doing a deity yoga practice, right? And so your mind is really clearly and very single-pointedly stay on it, and there's no need to do anything here. But if you unnecessarily kind of become a kind of a Curious George and invoke the spy system and meta-awareness, like, is anything happening? Then that can kick in many other irrelevant thoughts, right? Now your mind will be all that, right? You don't need all those distractions, interruption, because meta-awareness activation can be interruption to your single-pointed concentration here. So that's what we're talking about, right?
What did that you pay shop on us?
No. So basically, Gisela elaborated a little bit, but repeated the same explanation here, that as you are in the state of meditation, of course, you know, if laxity or agitation or any other thing is really disruptive here, then you should be aware of that. So we need to use mindfulness, meta-awareness, and we have to do something. You don't want to sit in that dull state of mind, look like I'm doing great meditation, because nothing's really happening, you know. But if things are going very well, there's a clarity in your meditation, there is a stability in your focus, then don't do anything, because overdoing it, right? You know, even activating the meta-awareness and mindfulness, then this can be disruptive to your meditation. It's just unnecessary interruption there, so you don't want that. So relax, that's what it said. Dispense your effort, right? Just be cool, you know, just stay put. Yeah.
What did it cause up? The Gunga in the Kajita, show the Shika Nashi, Magum said, so to go and go in the Jigmara. Said the data, show Shisha, the go to Poya down. You did do those Kony Bay, Tata to pass Tany's Manu, Tata for Doyak Langa to his Sogora. Says, Till Laga, the Tata Domo, the Sigo Kato Marwa. Said the thing is the Gunga was in a dark because the Gumdas is Yaboshe.
So if we would like to cultivate things in samadhi, that would include calm abiding. So we want to be a yogi, meditator of cultivating samadhi, then we have to follow the what called the standard authentic instructions, right, in the authentic text. We have to do exactly as you know, the instruction tells us. You know, what kind of antidotes do we need to invoke and apply, where we don't need to apply any antidotes, right? And so then we will be able to, with consistency, develop the samadhi or absorption. But it's on our own, through our own assumption, like, okay, maybe this is what I want to do. If you just go by your own assumptions and the choice, then we may not be able to develop the samadhis authentically, right? So following the standard authentic instruction, because those helps us to avoid the extremes, isn't it? When you don't need to do something, don't do it. That is falling into an extreme. But when you need to invoke the antidote, you have to do it. Otherwise, it's on another extreme. So walking on the middle path is not necessarily easy, isn't it? Avoiding all those obstacles, and where we need to apply antidotes, where we can relax, be cool, we have to do it exactly as the standard, gold standard authentic text tells us. And then we could develop the samadhi. Otherwise, if we go with our own whims and assumptions and thoughts, we will not. Sowa ya sowa gen kasa te do kaya ma be sowa tangyam disiko ro ge. Sowa tangyam se no tangyam se de sowa tangyam dise tangyam. Ini kasa seme tangyam sombo res. Ta de kare se dise tangyam se adi. Sowa tangyam de te do kaya ma be sowa disiko. Sowa tangyam se de kaya ma de ro. Sowa de. So here in the text, there's mention of 3 kinds or types of tangyam equanimity translated here. And the one is what we just talked about in this context, which is the non-application of antidotes, right? You just dispense your efforts because neither laxity nor agitation is disturbing your mind in the meditation. So stay put and cool and don't need to do anything. So that is one equanimity, right? Non-application of antidotes. But there are other meanings to equanimity. One is the equanimity as feeling, right? We have a pleasurable feeling and unpleasurable feelings, and what we call the neutral feelings. Here translates indifferent feeling here, right? The neutral, I would say, which is neither pleasurable nor unpleasurable. So that's also called equanimity feeling. Then we have the in the 4 immeasurables, there's immeasurable equanimity there, right? And so that has to do with, even-mindedness, right? Don't be attached to this and hate those, right? We are non-discriminatory against anybody else, right? Not taking some as close, some as distant, right? We have equal attitudes towards. So that is part of the 4 immeasurables, immeasurable sense of equanimity, right? Between attachment and hatred, right? So treat everybody the same. That's kind.
What is that? That is the digital GSTDL. That so what the so small dona choco sauce land now the mibala tennis nature some never the zoo six. Tam Yabunezona Neza Nam Shunji Shingzo Shista. Maybe I would next then she was one go me direct Tato Shuris. Seja Gardon Gris. The Shuma Chamo said that Gomen says you're what the Seja Gardon Gris. Seja Gardon Seja Gardon that shadow Chin. Chin Lagon La Dene, Hine Tobayam, Yawa song sauce, Shung de young, Tinjika de Thomas, Shine Zesha, Hedon, Namda, Shing de Shunai, someday she is there, Shine, Mother Jacob, Sheja, Hindu, Shinza, Minula. Then Shine Madonna, Jago Shia Minula, Shine Tomna, Jago Shia, Shita, the Jenny Bears, Judenje, Sakon Mundus, Shine of Woje, Tele Shindus, Dame Dabe, Daya Koa, Jawadam, Tele Injung, Nua Jaw, Savade, Shine Mundu. Dromi Gusos, or did that. The same you will never get a share mother. And don't you talk about the metal of us? You got the relation of Marisi or that. The same because you want to shemot on ya. Lovely doya choked with Sharatilla. And she would think it, she wanted to go and think it, she lost to read on the dog. She lost to read on the Tamata Yamara.
No. So, as Krishna is saying here, that the need to understand and deal with laxity and agitation, excitement, jingwe in Tibetan, it really is pertinent, especially in the context of cultivating calm abiding and special insight, right? We need to achieve the unity or the union of shamatha and vipassana, calm abiding and special insight, in order to be able to uproot the root cause of samsara and be free, right? If we don't have that union, then we really cannot uproot the root cause there, but if we are just meditating on, just in a general sense, impermanence, emptiness, right? The stress on the clarity and agitation is not stressed in the same way as in that context. And so, as Gisela mentioned here, that we talk about two things. Selcha means I call it nature is the stability. Here they call it abiding nature, right? And the selcha is the clarity aspect. The two things. The samadhi has those two things. It has a stability, be able to sit on the focus as it is, unperturbed, and then it must also have the clarity, isn't it? It shouldn't be dull mind sitting on a focus. But even when we achieve maybe a pretty good sense of what we call stability of the mind, which is called abiding on the focus, but somewhere we really have to pay more attention to laxity, because subtle laxity could be present. Although, relatively speaking, that the focus appears quite clear to our mind, but still there could be subtle laxity, right, present, that is not as appearing as clearly as it should be, right? It ought to be. So this is where we need to be aware of subtle laxity and deal with it. Don't just get caught out. Okay, now I have quite a clear, right, focus here, because subtle laxity is hard to kind of detect there.
Sim chungbo siya da. Ko mikwa maasiv chik jo diwa la ko ngar pika chakbo jo tenpo me na stiri shik da. Su lakpa ka taga si sim yin ni shala ri jito dwa tuk si langsa shokro. Dire mahi ba ko de tuk na langsa ju tuk langsa ma sali sami jo pika ngar siya do, si siya ngar siya dongo risi. O tingi zi chungbo siya risi.
So it says here, when this quality of abiding is there, alternate between loosening up and inducing the sharpness of the quality of clarity. So we may have pretty good clarity of the focus, but still subtle laxity could be there. So what we need to do is we need to what called sharpen the clarity, in the sense we need to tighten the grip onto the focus. It's just like you're holding an object loosely, isn't it? So it's like this, it can happen. So you need to tighten it. So we have to tighten the mind to the object a little bit. That can, induce the clarity more, sharpness. If the mind is really not holding tight enough, as we said, too tight is not good either, right? Everything has to be standard. Then it will induce the sharpness, we call clarity of the focus. Yeah. Something thangben nyedo ngo jibe shine do ar nyedo ngo ba lakdong top ngela ya ta nguji ngo jo lakdong ma do na ale long ma do na ina da nyedo ngo jo lakdong jo ro la de de te la te ne nguji ngo jibe shine to bo ro ale chida cheme shine ngel nga ba do those technical things can so where is that anyway, forget about this there somewhere. What Geshe said, in general, what we talk about is that in order to have vipassana, special insight, one must have shamatha or shinet, right, ahead of time, right? Because that, helps you have pliancy of the body and mind, and then being in that like calm abiding, you can do analysis, and then you can have special insight, right? That's the sequence order, accepted it. But here somewhere is mentioned as if that you could have a calm abiding like after you have this special insight, right? That's the confusing part here. So I asked Geshe, can you explain one more time? I thought I got it, but I have to make sure I got it. So what that really means is not so much is changing the sequence. What it means is that, sometimes when we talk about the Samdeng Tangbo, the first stage of samadhi or concentration, there is the preparatory stage, Nyerdok, right? And so that preparatory stage, samadhi can also have the nature of a special insight, And so based upon that special insight, the next one, what next follows is the calm abiding you develop, right? And then you will have the actual special insight later on. So it's not really changing the sequence, but it's possible that the preparatory stage or the first dhyana stage, concentration, which has the nature of special insight, that connects you to developing the calm abiding, and then that to the special insight, actual one. Okay, so that's the
Shine da don't joke say moto sisa meta to ya do da me to ba Australia any shila ngo jogo maris shila ngo de maro na meta to yo ro ba da me to yo ro dan da to ba le de ken kwal ra ba sam le to ba gyul ke ba so to ba gyul je seme chba se wo da ale seme chba se jo ro no so shi ji mi shila ngo ro ko yo maris no so Shine kaya shila kaya me tongi me da tongi de yoro shalu jeng yoro ta da she di taba shila sung de ko di so as Geshe explained that generally speaking for us to be able to Tokpa, because usually we translate understand, but I check, is that the realization? He said, yeah.
to realize either impermanence or emptiness, there is no requirement that we first have to have a calm abiding, and then we have the union of calm abiding, special insight with regard to emptiness. So we could realize emptiness, impermanence without having the unity of these two things, isn't it? But in this context, why we emphasize the essentiality of the unity of calm abiding, special insight, is we are really talking about uprooting the root cause of samsara and then get out of samsara, right? So in general, it's possible to realize emptiness or impermanence without this unity of the two things, right?
What did it? Chidang Hine, the Hadon Toga Garden, Hine, the Lakon Motok, Hila, the Mengazek, Gumto Jana, Lodges Gomote, Hine, Lakon Toga, Nimaji Gomote, and not the top shot to Yorwa. The Hila had 70, because it make what Nea, tell us, Java was Utoya Mena, and Koya Yajidra Mera.
No.
The Yajidra is Hila Toga.
So why there is so much emphasis on the need to cultivate shamatha, calm abiding, special insight, is, as we said, when we have them, that makes a whole difference in terms of our progress in the practice, isn't it? And we could be practicing the whole year very sincerely, but without calm abiding, special insight, our practice doesn't have, that much of a power, effectiveness at it. But if we have the actual calm abiding and special insight, even if we do 1 day practice, right, the power equals the whole year practice, because we need a very sharp, clear, and functioning mind and body, right, to be able to do that. Now, that's why we're talking about how this union of special insight vipassana can change. It's a game changer, as my professors would say, in terms of practice. It's a game changer in that even 1 day of practice will equal to a whole year's practice, right? Just estimate, right? So the progress will be that much, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Chidang also be Deno Toya, the Dena Hila Toga Marwa. That Tama Tamsi Yama Karto, Hila Mother Dry Marwa.
Chidang Karsunbe?
La Hila Donica Togra. Tama Tamsi Yama Jigwa.
Basically, repeated that. So if we really are bent upon freeing ourselves from samsara, then there is no other way around it. We have to go the way we just talked about, achieve calm abiding, and then being in that state, right, we cultivate special insight, and through the integration, union of these two things, then we can knock out the root and get freedom. But in general, doing any other practice or even realizing, as I say, impermanence, things like that, we don't have to have these two things first, right? Yeah. So we will stop there today, and we will welcome questions. First, I'll go to our Dharma friends in the cyberspace or social media world, and then we'll come back. Okay, then we'll come back. Question la Pam.
So thank you very much, Geshe. I have 2 questions. One is, what does Geshe consider the gold standard for samadhi, for training yourself in samadhi?
Say it again.
What does Geshe consider the gold standard for as a resource for
Developing shamatha, you mean? Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Give me one each time. Thongma gengi sungju membership chung thoshi shuro chesa. That and shine sinye changma kebala rawage. Na shung mangbo yorwa. Na shung cheda demba gengi and ken kergi kongba shebe na rawage. Shung cheda demba kare sina yago resa. That shine rambe dubalia. Shung chende.
Shung chende da ganga da pesha shine hilako Masha there, the Papa told me that he's years did Tico did she not have to pay a Tico Yar.
I mean, the Shung mix a chedaji in Pessoena.
La
Papa told me and Robin English Shung got chedaji, changes way and changes what. Now, Papa Quinty, one about Quinty, and a little bit in
如果人家主要造化的，他这个要造这个木有的，
just I want to shinny to your again.
主要造化必须现在主要要他的用手的么那地方用手的么那是吧？
So Geshe says, of course, there are many authentic texts here. Usually, among the great Indian top-notch masters, they would refer to the works of Arya Asanga and Arya Vasubandhu, right? And so I said, can you give a particular example of text like that? Too many they wrote, right? So Geshe said, in the case of Arya Asanga, it is the what is called the Abhidharma Samukya, compendium of knowledge, right? In Tibetan. And then the Vasubandhu, of course, Abhidharma Kosha, treasure of knowledge, especially the chapter 8, it talks about meditative absorptions, right? So those are gold standard, yes.
Awesome.
What's your next?
这个刚刚现在对现实中的苦刚刚是我的，他的同美国些兄弟都过这些。
Even the great Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa, who's watching me from behind, in his great exposition of the stages of path to enlightenment, Lamrim Chemo, talking about the whole calm abiding section, especially inside, he often quote or refers to the works of Vasubandhu and Asanga.
Okay, thank you. And then a technical question on in a concentrative meditation state, when you increase your concentration and your mind gets tighter, should you focus on loosening that, or is that part of increased concentration that it's the mind is a little tighter?
When you have a good concentration, should we tighten or should we just
A little bit, yeah.
Sure.
And if it's not supposed to be too tight, how do you know when it's too tight?
Sure. That understand the cause of shine come down the same dimle rembu chego lab rawage. And bena the cause of the rawakin jingwa chamo yamba do chen and seje ngartong ko lab rawage.
라,
Jingwa chamo lia toxen chen this the seje ngartong ko lab rawage. Danga na shin da ya seje yago yoba ina rawage. Dande di kala ya be ngartong chana. Yang ko chön chago rwesa. Ya be dam chana. Ya
要不原来养家在这吧，这我现在呢，要出样你看
제가
这个，
코디 렘보르치 간데 체다데 간데
我
저거
这当当我就无那啥的个了，他就说这个我，
어디 간데 체고 그 수서와게 담레 렘보 체다데 간데 스토고 거래서 담다는 준세 야 뢰다는 지고 와게
他可以这的，是没办法，要不那种的养家呗，那个这吧的是叫嘛，这个下，
그래서
我就要不那的那样，
세제 때는
真的种的养家就行，我这个的就是别种钱呢，人可养那啥种修是吧？
그래서
可能是可能这可能也会在那下，人辛苦那也不是最高，马上那大下我马上那养家这话这么我现在那什么种修是吧？
그 세제 야고 예배 강을이야 당다 세제 숙처로 따다는 야 괜찮고 이러게
然后你就种的，
꼭 갈래 고란 줘야
啊
되는
我对。
because I want to have clear. I'm used to American classroom system. As clear the words better. Sometimes it's not coming. Yes, I mean that's of course up to the practitioner. Once we learn all these ways, right? So we have to judge, how our mind is doing in meditation. If there is a laxity or agitation, then we need to notice that. Apply the antidotes. If there's no need to apply antidotes, so relax it. Don't do it. As you said, like if there is a good enough clarity, don't try to just kind of work up too much clarity. That can be distraction because it's a process, right? The clarity will improve by itself if you can maintain good enough clarity. And so we have to be very like a walking finely between all of this, what calls loosening up too much or tightening up too much. It's like walking in the middle path is kind of some tough there, isn't it? So we have to get that sense and be in a moderation kind of state. Yeah.
When we're taking the object of the meditation, the mind itself, if we take the mind as the object of meditation, you like that? Yeah, he's already nodding. And I mean, I can see how it could begin with we're applying this mind, this mind, this mind, this mind, this mind. And at some point we can recognize that, oh, the mind is fragmented into, there's multiple minds, so there isn't one inherent mind. So now the focus can shift into, what's the word? What's the word? Recognizing the object of negation, not recognizing. What is that word? Isolating, recognizing, like, what is that? No, just like isolating the object of negation being the inherentness of the mind.
Yes.
So at that point, the inherentness of the mind is what we're after, to have that be appearing clearer,
Right,
clear and clear and clear. And at some point that becomes the, we're still really actually looking at it conceptually because we have an image, right? The
Right.
clarity itself,
Yes.
there's an image.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking at some point when we go to direct recognition of that, does that get left alone and then something else gets activated so that we see it directly and we're no longer relying on a mental image? We're that relying on a mental image. So can Geshe explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Morang condition the disagree again that and then also can gakjang munjin girwage
나
gakjang munjin rawage the rangshin druba nga rangshin druba di the same rangshin druba di gakjang rawage the same rangshin druba di ki ta ko sebuji chaya chedo nga di charju gorwage same rangshin druba second yona dinde assembly ya al tok be samlo dan chaya me shin ngusun de nga chaya ske yo marwage then karojin dinde samlo mamo tan de kan ya ta ko same rangshin druba di kaso da nga ina the ngus rawage same king washem be ina rawage same rangshin druba gaksa de past de sha khoran khadu raj rawage same ngocho ya de shara khande yo resa ge da nga ina de rawage kala da cheba ngocho ba da ngusum ngocho be sa rawa ngusum ngocho sa na rawage rangshin druba da gi nga ta tokbe samlo da ma shi rangshin druba sang yo ma rawage da ko yaku sebe cha sa de ta ngusum de chede ka rangshin druba de sur de sha ta ngun rangshin druba de de ko sam de khara che yena ngji chedan da de yena
그래서
same rangshin druba de ngwe je che de dang ko tokbe ge gen cheba ge samlo dang ro wa ge
아래
da de ge khora ge seja de tokbe samlo dang seja de ma shi yo ma ro wa dang da de kyen so ge da de ngusum do gangsa ngwe je same rangshin ro ngusum do nge ba ina so wa ge ani tagi rangshin druba da tokbe sha sha ji ro di sur de wa ji lo khora seber chi thong to ya re che ra khande yo re sa
아래 다고 semran시 맞아도 하고서는 이 sem거라 내중원에 다 그거라 이거 라도 쳐도 돼 시고 시작해요 말아 대버도 라도 말아
이 봐도 거 예와 체스케 요 말고 다가
말아 다데 배 야고 좀지데 비야스 파dom도 또 이거도 야 공체도 얼마든지 더뭐 제바도 zan데 시다 세워들 하고 있지 말이
맞다 그냥 각자 문제 대 랑시 조바디 당고 제바 랑시 조바 세보 가져 차바 예면나 산이 무슨도 각자 무슨도 내 여러 바게 랑시 조바
라
무슨도 다른 가서 믹스에 각자 도스 다 샤바는 무슨도 각자 왜 체여려 말
랑시 맞아 마시고 그러죠
랑시 조바 각자 문제 좀 그렇게 각자 문제를 되게 나도 동의도 없게 시험마다 각자 문제 코나
아래 가자 무슨 다 가자 무슨 다 쇼는 시험나 이 솔로로 살더니 거기 라토도 뭐 딱딱이 시
다디
그 대시 쇼는 시험나 다 대시 유는 간에 요도 때 근데 소제바시 망고시 고문에 내가 초사데 리바장시 뭐 제바 지고 펜토 말지 거라 어때
다디 아니 게 동맥이 각자 문제 세단 저여러 봐 커도
또 뭐시야 다 그거 또 뭐시야 또 뭐면 요거라
라
그거 제바시야 또 뭐시거라
매매 동맥이 각자 문제 세로 가져도 동맥 치고로 똑바 매백이 각자 문제 세요
또 매우 다 파고서 또 예시야
먼저 세대 갈아는 게디 동맥이 각자 문제 중에다 디 가서 다 똑배 뭐제베기 랑신 주바도 수르도 바질 제 커도 마다 시군 간데 시군을 파괴
가직발 다 세르 저거면서 시 제와 또 그것도 더 다지바 저거라다
because I'm trying to get Geshe to the answer, right? Because it then takes you into somewhere else. So Geshe said, I mean, as an ordinary people, right, for us to be able to recognize, have the clarity of the intrinsicness of the mind, right, which is It's not there, right? Through conception, there's no way to do it directly. But only when somebody reads Arya, transcendental beings directly, then they might have a different clarity, right? But for us, it's just almost impossible. Yeah.
Yes, that's clear.
Yeah.
My question was about the transition, the transition from conceptual understanding of the emptiness of the mind
And
to then the yogic direct. There's something going on there.
How it
So
transfers,
that
yes.
transition. That my question is
sure.
about the transition.
Sure. Again, that one chiba did a day with tango that same rangshi mandubo de servagan tango chiba to go yorwage. That chiba and musum the judu the kande judu go in us or that judas rogage. Chiba get under rangshi member to the yorwage. That musum chaba and ako jubat te do or that jubat that the julam segment that this dishes so much work. Musum got a child worse.
대단히 그것도 유카르도 정보 그것도 연대 카르라베나 정보 정마지 애니 때지 하고 야고 히라시고 뭐 근데 장저도 또 비제 맞도 좋아셔서 내도 야야 또야 열어
얘네들 무슨 말 간에 주르고 있다고
라
제발 세마디 무슨 세말 간에 주르고 그래서
그래서 무슨 거 탈주야 곰 시선 이런 것을 세만 줘도
다까지 튼지 강가 세돈 주르고 저와
라
튼지 강가로 매번 세돈 무슨 주르고 저와
성제선을다
라
성제선 다 동심에 무슨 주고라
아래 파파차나 디
파파사나 로가가 무슨 주고 뭐 있다고 열어
아니 돈이 세바도 되는 무슨 데 자고로
파파사가 해야 되지
yeah. So I think I was asking the process again, Gisela, takes a while to get it convinced. So yes, I mean, to begin with, is actually through inferential valid cognition, right? Based on reasoning, analysis, that's the way we try to understand the emptiness, the intrinsicness of the mind. But at a certain point of time, it's actually by the power of the familiarization and cultivating intimacy, kind of that layers of conceptuality, they somehow, as you become more familiar with that insight, they peeled off. And that's how then when you have a direct one, there's no more intermediary thing, right? There's a concept is somehow, however subtle it is coming between. That veil is removed, right? Now you have a direct. Yeah, that's how it changes, yeah.
Question about
Sure.
that. That part's clear.
Yeah.
The direct yogic perception.
Yes.
Is it just boop comes, or is it growing, and then these things are peeling?
Okay.
Or is it asleep, completely asleep, these are peeling, and then it goes boop?
Sure. Tanda ninjong musum yorwage. Ninjong musum tonyi maybe ninjong musum de kyadan de nidere tangba chabage rwage tonyi to and then kale chene ko musum cha in ninjong musum cha rwage yan ninjong musum de gyul kyadan de mandar se tonyi maybe ninjong musum de.
예. 다다 동의도 몰라요. 근데 야 그런 팔론도 야 가서데 레서는 내정무서 제로 거라.
알아. 돈 ninjong musum 거라 top 제 갈사 오르가서 있나 대왕이 되게 계획에 요마로 봐. That's right. I think it's the process again through the same thing. Once you become Arya, and then as your cognition of the emptiness, that becomes direct. That's where it becomes yogic, direct perception.
If it's gradual, it implies that it is active somehow in the background, but we're not recognizing it. If it's gradual, that means it is doing its thing while conceptual mind is doing its thing, which means it's actually active. Can we verify that?
Are we aware of that, you mean?
Yeah, no, we're not aware, clearly. But can we verify that it is active while we're doing the conceptual? It's active.
Sure. Morandi tendesara manzola chidangi daga ninjong musum ki saben rubi yoba ha mago ne rawage tongyi le mi bu cha shen rawage da tongyi le ya lob chong che tongyi le samlo tang ane ka so da cheba ngon tongyi do ru rawage da de la komdi mambo che de di mus da ka so da musum sama cha yin de ka la da ki ninjong musum jablo de ge di ane bad khora da ka so de rawage tongyi de musum cha ru go res go da da re
예.
요즘 완전 사변을 지어를 받다.
저 상황되네야 저거 뭐 이게 더 갈래야.
만 내정 무슨 그 사변지 여러 번 가서.
예.
Yeah, Geshe thinks we might have what we call seed of the yogic perception there, sort of in the background as we go through the process, and then, yes.
근데 저 무슨 상황이는 상제 상황이었어요,
Geshe challenged me, I guess, because I show a little what called like Yeah. Not so being sure. Like, what are you talking about? We are talking about the possibility of becoming Buddha. So what's that difficulty is there? I think it's for me than for anybody. Sorry, who has? Yes.
Just to follow up to that, so there is an awareness. We're aware of the fact that the generic image of emptiness is wearing off. Is this? Is
Are
there?
we aware of that?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
right.
Wasn't that your question?
Sure, yeah.
Oh no. No, but is there an awareness
Yeah,
that
I
this
can
is
ask
it's
that. Right,
disappearing?
sure,
It's
sure,
fading away.
Sure. That knowledge. But 가서 오래긴 따라 때문에 아니 돈이 또배 제바디기 던지 세두고 오르와게 갈래갈래 곰디진 던지 세두어버디 던지 세게 여버든 가나서 하고고 여러베사 돈이래 매베 던지 여러와게 다 곰디 체를 고 무슨 교 오르와 무슨 교게 규람 대나로 던지 세두고 오르와 던지 세게 여버든 간속게 하고고 여러베사 소저 냠내바 챙겨 되게
들으시 거다 그런 거는 야 년년 좋은데 세르 돈에 가서 무슨 다들 소 년년 더 저저라
Special things, yeah, that's checking with your experience. The more clarity you have, that's indication that it's peeling off, right? Yeah. Yes.
About the I'm bringing in Yidam practice. I'm bringing in Yidam practice. So the image of the Yidam is that going to represent the emptiness of the mind? Is that why we're cultivating, looking at the image of the Yidam and looking at it with all the parts?
Or is that part of
is that
insight into art?
Well, is that part of like bringing into clarity the emptiness of the mind? Because the Yidam would represent an emptiness of the mind, wouldn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. The morang this going on the Yidam ha kumgo yorwage. The Yidam ha saying that gets a shame and a social semgi rangshiders was rawage, Hakum dead. Just another that hagi any good chaksan de sebo yongdabche, and they get the chebachigo rawage. That time at should do what they'll have commit chair, they get the kango semgi tony toagi, roa, semgi nelu toagi, Tagar Shade, you don't have commit, semgi nelu toashid. Yidam will have come to go away. The Yidam had that same grangshin was go away. And it's a deal, yeah, that's it. Chaksan de second roage. And indeed, also Jabachi and the Ramshi Modu was sometime to go away. Teach the Yidam have come this same because of Ramshi Abatoy, Deaton that you go away, so Yidam have come.
Oh, they similar you do it.
No, so in a deal of large, I do that. The member that covered you the test, Mission again.
La Cora go to Geshe go drag Gumja Zora take water. Tate go dish out any big bottle said Ganga. What a border of those Reka the rest of Gujimara.
So I would say this question can elaborate a little bit more like Geshe gives one answer. That gives much clue. Yeah, Geshe said, I mean, by cultivating Yidam, meditation, deity yoga practice, right, that involves that, realizing the emptiness of the mind. But of course, it's more than that. Then you have to explain the Geshe, you just can't stop there. As I said, for example, Yamantaka, right, as a deity, we cultivate it, right, as we try to get the clarity of the whole features of Yamantaka, right, the appearance. And then we analyze this to let go of the clinging aspect, right? Ordinary appearance, ordinary clinging, all of that. Yes, in the process of that, we also realize the nature of the mind. But then it's more than that because it's all the way, right? This is the fast track to the enlightenment state, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Have anything to do with the four harmonious friends?
Four harmonious friends? You mean the elephant and that?
Yeah.
Oh. Kurang this going on the lap, you don't have comedy that timber pinchi you again. Timber pinchi will get the water of your vest again. You don't get half comedy than other timber pinchi you again. Dilly and Yamling towards the water scale your mares for it. Timber pinchi the Yidam la comella.
Timber pinchi the Yola Josia Yomare. Timber pinchi said the Jizan was some song was in it. Yara Pedro,
Geshe feels that the four harmonious friend is more understanding as a message, more like how everybody should learn to live in harmony and be kind to each other, but not necessarily connected to the deity yoga practice or the Yidam practice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the Tammy.
Geshe Tenzin. This is a fundamental question.
Sure.
Aside from what is in textbooks, how would one describe the signs of special insight?
Say it again.
The signs of special insight.
You mean signs, the indicative signs? How do we know that we are developing special? Is that what you mean? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps just a little bit more than what is written in text.
Okay, sure. Morakandi shwe de sigur again lockdown rowagen. Ta lockdown kon lockdown je shigur rowagen. And lockdown de je yungu yebegi ta nganzola sosolia di kazo chunda ro so marwege. Dinde ko ya da shungran chigo je sheb mayin ba je rowa geng des jebur sungdo rwesa. Lockdown da chi sosol to ba je ge yuna rowage. Jige yebegi da chi sosol ngoje chogo rowage. Di ko des sking. Shung chigo na yob mayin ba je da.
Tene de ganza bena yonde kare tangbo xia de ya kong ya zhuai ganga guzong shugu是吧 de xila se na de yonde kare ko ya zhuai yonde hagu ro
de ine da bena da mixel hakdon sen ko cheda ba zro ge hakdon gi chejo yonde de sosol chegi yob de kan hagu ro ba ge
de hagu ge ko
ngan gen chujalan de chushe de cho dualan me shen na ji direct da chema ro kare she yo re sa ge hakdon chegi yob da chema
hakdon chegi yob da 학동 고문에 제발 실라 다 학동 고문이 신의 공부라 실라 송지신의 샘디 야 지서는 누쇼 셔 두라 레로 데시는 셔 샘네 베리다 제로잖아 맞아 두르
아래 디수지 게이면 디 제기 여버데 하마고 강에 게 요마로 와
요마라
아디 냠네 코시
대고 사동 제는 사동 하고 대기 봐
I think he said, well, I mean, he said, our problem is that, we really not completely seriously into cultivating all of those things. But if you are a real, actual meditative practice, that you shouldn't have any problem noticing the progress and the indications that how much progress you are going through, right? Special insight, or that how close you are to achieving it. He said no, he doesn't worry about it. If you are really practicing, you will notice it based upon your experience and the progress and the clarity of the mind and the sharpening of the mind, So that's Geshe-la's response. What? Yes, clairvoyance, yes. Is that a part of it, you mean? Okay. Yeah.
I just asked if it involves clairvoyance.
Clairvoyance, yes, yeah. Di karsakul hakdon je angel ya di paru de bal ngushe je kwa da ngushe je bo ge di chajen ro ke yo mar wa sa hakdon je le ngushe gi je
ngushe go ma re
no so
go ma re
no so ine hakdon de den ngushe ji gi na
la
hakdon tebe sho le ya ngushe de top yung gi na me na
mo da hila zhe na ngushe zhe ga ya ro hila mo na ngushe de zhe ya yo ma ro
ma de hila top de ngushe ge mo du bal ngushe ji gi na me na
hila top de ngushe ngushe ko ro
Yeah, just I'm trying to add some questions so that Geshe will explain. Otherwise, Geshe has a habit of saying only 1-2 words. He said, yeah, there is no need for the development of clairvoyances for calm abiding and special insight or the union, Then I asked, right, Geshe, what about once you have it, by the way, do you gain some clairvoyances and anything like that? He said, no, you have to pursue it, but it's much easier to have it. Once you have the union of calm abiding special insight, it's much easier to have a clairvoyances. But you still have to work at it. It just doesn't come freebies, I guess. I was asking for some freebies on the way, So, okay, so I guess okay, so maybe one more question. Yeah, no, go ahead. One more question. Yeah, go ahead. And then we have announcements and prayers and go ahead.
Thank you, Geshe, for your teachings. I was wondering around, I think it's when we try to escape things, so thinking about Shantideva, when we're disheartened, we cultivate joy. Then what about when we're sad or grieving or something like that, and we just try to run away from it instead of like thinking about the wisdom that maybe we can gain. Is there any teachings around that, or
Sure.
yeah?
Sure. Tanda degen disigo ruwagen da kaso jingwa chede sema pamde yoza ane di semya pangte gore de thalia ane chi yunden ruwagen yunden de pen samgor slab ruwagen semya ngoto ya shade ruwagen da quran za dingsan chizo na lia chi kaso kingye mangbo chene semma chi ka semgi kangai mangbo yor ruwagen semma ma cha je yor ruwa namje kangai yude kanlia 지금 평행으로 된다 섬고 말고 강에 되는 바 샘디 바 가서 죄도 지게 걸어와게 제대로 가리야 되네 지 가서 다 먼저 경에 된데 샤도 갈 샘마베 간스 칼로 파마다 샘교와다 된데디 소답 셔도 와게 먼저 낭배 슝나네 삼로 땅다 단단 나신데 수에 된데 여러 배사
그때야 야 지금은 나와 형제들 샘기서죠 샘소요 자시다 해야 와라
저는 샘베나 기시겐지 강에 망고체네 샘마 로파마다 에너지 샘마 시트도 갈다 삼로 땅다 가르가르 숨어 배전으로 직니 숨어서 내려와게
제대로 샘마 쪼나저 샘 무슨 돈에 에네 군조 용대도 야 삼동 그랬어 다야 그바시의 유 초저배 인도에서 축세고 유에서나 야 코아지시라 두개도 어디 지서 두개서 샘마
Can you think of one particular example? So maybe then Geshe will relate to that. Or I'm going to create one, I don't know, right? Because otherwise Geshe is taking into the whole Dharma thing. That we know it already. But
So
say any sadness, whatever, yeah.
it's actually my personal one's more with anger. So what I found is when I try to push out anger, and I'm just like, I'm not angry, that's a bad feeling. Hey, don't be angry. And then it just keeps coming back.
Okay.
And then maybe it shows up as like passive aggressiveness
Sure,
or something like that. So when I don't sit in it and name it and
Sure.
take whatever I need to get out of it, and I'm just like, go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Ala mungela chorang kadu pech tena any gang de kadu sona madarwa and ngaza shishiru structure Peshan this the morakange chik the yusake kongro sai chorwage. Lungo yando kala ya tangbo de soso kongro sawa ding wele maje chorwage. An sane samen dong da chorwage. And did you ko nangme sha she de kala kongro di yangyue ji yung de wage. But the next summer that career so that kongro sawa nangme ta ma sha ba chorwage. Korea da ji kaso da sangjon so ma summer dang da.
그때 코로나는 코로나랑 좀뭐 상호동 거라 코로 지부터 누자부터 요와 대 코로나는 좀뭐 용이 점령세 거는 용대 거기 코로 좀도 점령세 용대서 삼는 아니 들어서 삼아 못 다는 코로 송 점령세 야이 배배기라 하던데
니는 먹어게 콘도 야 콘도기 다 규제는 되게 돼 삼로 다음에나 아니야 콘도 마셔 지야 니네 평균으로 하게
코로 유제 삼아서는 코로 깨는 님을 저서 녹으면서 코로 님을 야 용하지요 말아 그래서 무슨 저거라
Yeah, Krishna said, I mean, well, this is where, because when I said before, right, is there any thing said in the Buddhist texts about Geshe? Well, the whole Buddhist thing is about mind training and how to improve the mind and everything. So what it talks about, but because you want to be specific, not a generic. In the case of what you just suggested, Geshe said, this is where we often, instead of kind of pretending I'm not angry or just kind of indifferent to it, so we'll try to look at it, right? See, how destructive anger is. And from Buddhist point of view, we said that anger does not have any good quality. It's right. It is. It disturbs your mind, right, and it can cause a lot of destruction. So you want to explore the destructive nature of anger and all the disadvantages of having that. And now you can contrast that with the other side, right, kindness or love or patience, right, and how beneficial those things are. So comparing and contrasting the benefits or the advantage, disadvantage of all these different states of mind, then, slowly it helps us to be able to, deal with anger better, something like that. Okay?
Thank you. What I was going to say is that's what I found now that I'm middle-aged, like sitting in it for a second, I'm angry, naming it,
right.
And then what does it need to tell me?
See, right, how you're feeling, in what way it's really helping you, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, and then thinking about my ego and all that, right?
Right, yeah.
But then I do have to sit in it for a minute. So then that was my question is,
right.
do I do
too
that?
Much, then don't sit on it. How much we can handle, right? Sometimes it's better to, if it's too much intensity, we have to cool down the head, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then when we have conflict, both our heads butting together, nothing's going to resolve. However intelligent people we are, so we have to cool down. So sometimes we might have to cool down and then look at it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you so much, again. So now I yield back to Geshe Haramba Kunjo Vessel for all the announcements and the prayer requests. And
a couple of announcements before we read today's prayer requests. The first announcement is that this next Sunday, July 5th, we'll be honoring and celebrating the birthdays of both His Holiness Dalai Lama and Tenzin Dorjee, who is the reincarnation of our late Geshe Phuntsok Gyeltsen. And as we do every year, both birthdays will be celebrated together. Again, this next Sunday, July 5th. And on that day, instead of regular teachings, we'll be offering an extensive talk ritual. And then afterwards, all our center students and friends and acquaintances are welcome to join us here for lunch, or invited to join us here for lunch. So please keep that in mind and mark your calendars for that. And then the second announcement is that on July 18th, which is a Saturday, that's the auspicious day of the month, or I'm sorry, of the year, that we honor the Buddha's first turning of the wheel of Dharma. And we'll be offering talk that evening. So July 18th, Saturday. So please mark that in your calendars as well. Shantideva Bila Neil Ngeja Trongsha Tadine Su Ajax Lewis Trone Kazakininga Koranti Shegurisha Kongishedo Tume Mutune Naronas Dine Tsedan Demba Andrew Devik Koranti Chi Tridenta Ani Semgantola Pe Kangin Dus Ani Pejin Rugo Kense Rugo Kangi Kense Pejin Reshas Koran Nyushi Jorwa Di Ani Nyushi Singda Yuachido Nishi Singda Yuachido Tume Narana Shueda Dine Zang Tu Dao Sarwa Kazakini Ma Rishi Ani Chik Me Dinishkil Rishi Ani Shushamba Siksharwa Koran the never Dushi Shasha Koran Nishina Yuanchido Tumanaronas prayers requested for those who have recently deceased include prayers for Bila Neal, who passed away recently, and then Sue Ajax Lewis, whose 49th day of passing was the day before yesterday. So please keep Bila Neal and Sue Ajax Lewis in your prayers and dedications, along with Bila and Sue. May all of those who recently passed be free of all suffering and purified of all negative karma accumulated since beginningless times. May they be reborn with all precious freedoms and endowments. May they meet the Dharma and a qualified guru and quickly achieve liberation and enlightenment. Prayers requested for those who are still with us include prayers for Andrew Devik, who is experiencing health and cognitive problems and may have bone marrow cancer. Prayers are also requested for Zhang Du Dao, who experienced a major accident and severe burn injuries. So please keep Andrew and Zhang in your prayers and dedications. May they and all sentient beings be free from all obstacles, hardship, and negative karma. May their wishes and prayers be fulfilled. May they be guided by the blessings of the three jewels, and may they experience everlasting peace and happiness.
We will do the Avalokiteshvara prayer recitation dedication for the deceased. We will do the 8 medicine Buddha prayer recitation and dedication for the living. And then all the long life prayers for our gurus. Chadong Kolo Yube, Yevo Dong, Jendong, Kewa Sangbe, Sangye Dong, Kala, Kangbe, Tela, Tete, Jumba, Chenre, Sela, Chanze, Lo, Omani, Peme, Hong, Omani, Peme, Hong. Omane Beme Hong Re, Gewan Di, Nudo Da, Jenre Sewan, Rubju, Rowa Jia Malu, Tie Salang Guebar, Sho, Toji, Kunla, Nyombe, Jomden, Cenzang Tebe, Nindu, Donge, Dozon, Sanje, Menje, La, Bindu. Lo Om Namo Bhagavate Begaze Guru Bendurya Tabaranzaya Tadangadaya Arahati Samya Sambudaya Teta Om Begaze Begaze Ma Begaze Beg Ranza Sambugadaya Soha Teta Om Begaze Om Begaze Begaze Ma Begaze Begaze Ranza Sambugadaya Soha Gewa Di Nyodo Da Membe Rowa Jia Malu The Salang Barasho, page 3. Ramjan Jave, Sangso Malu Ba, Kande Chiang, Chave, Gyurjuk, Sisi Gele, Punjon, Yishin, Nguju, Chenjen, Lame, Sona, Daja, Donshu, Trabe, Suden, Kanjen, Gombo, Tenzin, Gyazo, Gozi, Meshe, Keja, Rabdenje, Shendu, Hunje, Roba, Chinje, Chunyin, Gwense, Kwenda, Nyamjo, Dunde, Dejen, Yishe, Gyume, Chame, Dendang, Denbe, Jingo, Do, Shave, Yitam, Hazo, Tamje, Daja, Tushu, Trabe, Sunde, Kanjen, Gombo, Tenzin, Gyazo, Gozi, Meshe, Keja, Rabden, Shendu, Hunje, Roba, Chinje, Lo, Bangdo, Yunde, Lunzo, Chinle, Nawan, Roham, Gyazo, Dazen, Penze, Dobju, Ngawa, Laye, La, Ranjang, Dusung, Yawa, Tam, Daja, Donshu, Trabe, Sunde, Kanjen, Gombo, Tenzin, Gyazo, Gozi, Meshe, Keja, Rabde, Shendu, Hunje, Roba, Chinje, Lo, Jigden, Sumle, Kange, Net, Chodo, Shiwa, Namjang, Nobu, Same, Miyo, Guisan, Keve, Be, Tezon, Tambe, Chuji, Son, Daja, Donshu, Trabe, Sunde, Kanjen, Gombo, Tenzin, Yazo, Gozi, Meshe, Geja, Rabden, Shen, Shinje, Lo, Sibe, Chukun, Jomla, Cheba, Be, Didin, Ngusum, Jabe, Yishe, Namdang Dorjee, Zhongle, Miche, Ba, Rizhu, Pabi, Gendun, Tamje, Daja, Donshu, Trabe, Sunde, Kanjen, Gombo, Tenzin, Gyazo, Gozi, Meshe, Geja, Rabde, Shendu, Lunje, Roba, Chinje, Lo, Khaji, Xingda, Neyu, Duju, Dedo, Nyamja, Rube, Jenjo, Nenjo, Lamsan, Dula, Doze, Nezong, Bao, Kandu, Sona, 다자 동슈 다베 순데 나 간제 공보 텐진 야조 고제 메셰 게 현대 런제 로와 진제 로 도제 장게 가다 차게드 면제 레베 퇴도 예고电到 真心 경외 도제제 이세 简单 天松 야조 다자 동슈 다베 순데 강진 공부 텐진 야조 예 고제 메셰 개자 현대 런제 로바 진제 로 대다 루메 잡제 초나 쇼자 닝네 외베 세다 미세 닝메 송고 람나베 가서 강종 레베 권제 마왕 로상 텐진 야조 조 상수 메셰 면조 면도 somshe yongde doje ningbu chir kewa gyazo yome tat ranjam gyawa kunje zebe ku ningdo chakpara songwe labjen chinle kunbe nowe ningbo sheba jishin lunje rubjo je dedu zongden gesan namge lujin ngesu jido dadu shin tubden shodu kundo rat Geshe Sishi Zemo Yejo Je Chana Bienmin Shenla Duzi Daso Nyingi Songso Damin Gashin Rube Chebe Ramne Guisan Chocho Gyazo Tazin Shok Menjo Seje Gyawe Dende Luwa Mebe Denba Dage Lasan Dabe Dudu Mebe Dungun Dela Nyundo Sho somshe yongde cela wangyo be geda dese chime labe dobre chansong denbe mana meda dabe ngobo dende topso ningbo losan gyabe shiru jinjong bebe labjen tele nambara gebe genzen dengze chizun lama shabde doju gada kongde malu ba sensan kongbe mangta lede konde neju kezen yonggu songge zensang jongji shabden mianzhong chezu zombe yinggu dambe namda siji wudong dobe mongmu shomla cheba dade mabe nima shabden tubden ningbo dawa tenjong da jeba seme shisi chamsi pende yige peyun taju geben zeba jongji shabden Losan Yahweh Tukju Kange Yu Jido Jebe Tuzi Pumsan Junju Sangmin Lekshe Singa Jinbe Namda Yongji Shabde Dola Deshi Gezen Tongba Lekze Yudu Nega Kunsan Gome Jiyang Bebe Chenle Renze Dunden Zechire Shabde Jamne Kunjo Sumji Chenlabda Daso Dendan Yok Kyonde dende lume dembe cheda membe ne gwendu ba sho mawan da me gwenjen donga de kanre jongso nyeda seze jamgwen gyawa nyeba yapse tangso denze mabe shiba denzen chebe yingo zebe je sheje negwen changju dendu longdo damje bebe beyun Duja Gyaltsen Gwendo Shabden Tesan Gomdan Chezu Zombe Yongzo Yuren Tobe Nyake Bishin Longri Dejen Nubu Be Tobden Kangri Dabo Shabden Dona Gongmen Zeba Namda Gu Dendan Robe Pende Jombe Rindu Gyumi Chebe Chele Gesan Duje Dendo Shabden Sho Chizun Lame Toge Melang Gesan Duje Dendang Zangme Kam Chuzon Todo Jidu Jeda Memben Dung Lundu Sho Ramjan Jingi Gombo Tseba Me Zodo Namje Geyun Drama Chojo Zeye Lazo Tamje Dade Mishi Jogi Ngudu Zu Tubden Jedang Losan Yawa Shiru Tenban Zimbe Beyun 타드 뇌자 용괴 신예 조 양드 닌제 원보 소와 제된 숨근 차나 배메 덴베아 자와 소소 타르바 예 남다 수진 양다 랑바 로산 겐덴 베도 샤데 퇴존 장진 농진 양배 신 삼조 남주 상진 존배 범조 시라 송조 대배 덴배 와다 첨보 샤데 체배 동화 고왕 보조데 전배 리랑 시유 몸자 전배 된된 레셰 장조 계주 신인 첨보 샤데 개배 랑도 구시 제다지 준비 차라 nie조 랑사 상변 되제 리고 이신노 숨된 신인 첨보 대상 노란 자베 덴데지 면조 다주 상매 시진 랍진 제진 덴드 배샤베 센데 신인 첨보 조선 야와 세제 진라보다 도된 담진 소매 다자 라상 다변 덴변도 제다 면변 년도 조 창조 샘조 렘보제 마제 바나 개와 냠바 매바 양 고네 공도 배와 쇼 동니 다와 렘보제 마제 바나 개와 냠바 매바 고네 공도 배와 쇼 사시 베시 조시 매도 장 레라 링시 년대 연바데 상제 신도 메데 외바 도그 남다 신라 제바 쇼 카레 라베 코르베 신감도 벤단 대와 마르 조베 제레세와 덴진 자조 샤베 시덴 바도 덴조제 이당 고로 라트나 만데 다야면 제와 군도 양다 라만다 데메 최제 벨라 롱제 사다 람제 연된 랍조네 도제 창기고 바뉴도 조